We'll be discussing specific usages of some of the instruments inside the Mishra Yantra, and we have here Soumya from Design Route who are interested in doing a production related to virtual restoration of the Jantra, right? So Soumya has some questions which I think will be useful for all of us to get a good understanding of the usage of the Mishra Yantra.
The first question would be the exact use of Niyat Chakra and how to take readings from the instrument.
Niyat Chakra to some extent kind of defines the Mishra Yantra. In the front view of the Mishra Yantra, as you can see here, these marble arcs, these are called the Niyat Chakra. Two towards the east and two towards the west. And they, as I said, define the front view of the Mishra Yantra. And their usage is essentially related to the measurement of declination of the sun. Declination of the sun meaning the angular distance from the celestial equator. If we take the equator of the earth and throw it up into the sky, so there's a kind of a ring around in the celestial sphere, and from that equator towards north or south, if we look at the angular distance, the angle it makes at our eye, let's say, the sun's position in the sky and then the equator, so the angle it makes in our eye, this angle is called the declination. If it is for the sun, then declination of the sun, declination of other celestial objects. We know that the sun moves throughout the year in its Uttarayana, Dakshinayana movement, the annular movement of the sun, wherein its declination changes from plus 23.5 degrees to at the summer solstice, northern hemisphere, 0 at the equinoxes and minus 23.5 degree and back and so on. So this instrument, the Niyat Chakra, are very beautifully meant to make this measurement. This is a unique instrument in that sense that there isn't any other instrument anywhere in the world which makes this kind of measurement of the declination of the sun so easy. You can just pick it up by hand. It's very, very nice. Its usage is very nice. So how do you use it exactly? Now there are supposed to be pegs at the center. See, this is a kind of a triangular wall, which is a feature of all the Samrat Yantra segments of the instruments here. So the angle in this triangular wall inscribed, this is supposed to be equal to the latitude of this location. And so at the center of this triangular wall here, there are pegs on either side. The pegs are made in such a way that you insert a rod, about a meter rod in it. It stands up vertical from here. And the shadow of this meter rod falls on this. So in the morning when the sun is rising from here, you put the rod here and the shadow will kind of move from here towards here as the sun rises in the sky. So there will be a specific movement when the shadow actually falls on the Niyat Chakra. So these are typically like, it's about 4 hours in longitude, 2 hours in longitude on one side, 2 hours, 4 hours in longitude on the other side. And then the shadow of the rod as the sun moves in the day becomes tangential to the scale which is inscribed here. We might be having some close-up views of the scale ahead. So the scales on this Niyat Chakra, so the shadow becomes tangential to this at some point. So that's the faint thing that you can see here. That's the shadow of so this is actually overshot the marking here, as you can see. So when the shadow is just tangential to the marking, that's when you can use the Niyat Chakra to measure the declination of the sun. And the declination markings here are such that it is 0 somewhere at the center here, and then 90 and 90 and so on. So when the sun is towards the north, that's the north from the observatory, when the sun is towards the north, the shadow will be on the southern side. And when the sun is towards the south, the shadow will be on the northern side. So the movement of the sun, annual movement of the sun throughout the year, makes this position of the shadow of this rod swing between the 23.5 plus and minus here. So just by going and reading from here, you can get quite kind of accurate value of the declination of the sun using this instrument, and it's relatively simple to do and quite fun to do. So that's how you use the Niyat chakra to make measurement of the declination of the sun. If you want to do it at night, you can use that too. What you have to do, if you want to do any nighttime measurements, then you will have the rod here at that central peg. You place the rod here and you position yourself appropriate location on the Niyat chakra.
Okay.
Your eye has to be close to the scales, and then you look against the edge of the rod towards the night object, star or moon or so on. We have done a few nighttime declination, not too many though, measurements using this, and so that's how you would do it. And in fact, that's how you have this entire declination range being utilized. Otherwise, for the sun, it would not go beyond plus and minus 23.5
So
degrees.
the reading that would come then would be the definition of that particular celestial body that we have aimed at.
Right. So, I mean, if you are doing it in a nighttime observation, the object that you are looking at, so you are measuring the declination of that object at that time. And in the daytime, when you are using the shadow, so you are then measuring the declination of the sun. And another thing is that in a day, given day for instance, in the time the sun moves from this to this to this to this, the change in the declination, although it's there, but the accuracies of this instrument, within the accuracy of this instrument, it's not likely to change that much. So it would be kind of 4 measurements of the declination in a day. So in some sense for better accuracy. So that's what you can do with this.
The two rods when placed, how do you decide which side to put the...
So that decision is based on whether it's morning or like in the morning the sun is here. So if you use this rod here, the shadow will fall here. If you use this rod, the shadow would not fall here.
Okay.
So the morning time you use this, the ones towards the west, and afternoon time you use the Niyat chakra towards the east.
So the rod being inserted on the opposite side whenever you're taking the reading.
The rod has to be like in the morning. The rod has to be at the center of the circle for which you're measuring.
Okay.
So accordingly, like there are 2 pegs here on both sides. So the rod would have to be here if you are using these, because this is the center of this circle, as you can see. And the rod will have to be here for these circles, because this rod is not at the center for these circles, and so on.